Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show.
Cup of Joe Wrestling Show?
With Joey Harris. A podcast for the wrestling fan on the go. So take your favorite beverage of choice and join Joey as he takes a look at some of the biggest shows on the WWE Network.
Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show. I'm your host, Joey Harris, and we are broadcasting from makeshift studios in the shadow of South Central Virginia. Follow the show on Twitter and Blue Sky at Cup of Joe Pod. Email the show at cupofjoewrestlingshow@gmail.com. If you would like to support the show, you can at paypal.me/cupofjoepod. If you are on Cash App and Venmo, I am on both of those at the Joey Harris. And of course, patreon.com/babykangaroomedia for bonus episodes of the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show, the Joey Harris Super Show, the Green Room, the Book Club Baristas, and so much more. Just $5 a month for hours of extra content. And folks, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I hope you spend today being thankful and surrounded by love. Now, usually we have been doing Starrcade the last few years on Thanksgiving, and I was going to continue that with Starrcade 2018, when the WWE brought it back, but it has since disappeared. So we had to pivot. So today we take a look at Survivor Series Showdown 91 from the WWF. But before we did that, I just wanted to take a moment and send out a rest in peace to some wonderful people. First, George Tahinos, great photographer, wrestling fan. If you know all of those great photos from ECW back in the 90s, those came from George. So a quick event that took him, I believe that it was a heart attack, but it was very quick last week. And then great, wonderful, longtime Mid-Atlantic Jim Crockett Promotions Smoky Mountain Wrestling announcer Bob Caudle passed away at the age of 95 last week. Just a wonderful man, great wrestling announcer, just the voice to me of Mid-Atlantic, and just had that gravitas of this newsman who was not going to be overly worked up and all of that, just report it as it was, and from the great wrestling fans and So Long for Now. And just, I remember meeting him. I met him very briefly back in the 90s, late 90s, and just what a wonderful gentleman that he was, and he'll be sorely missed. And then buddy of mine, James Forrest, passed away after a very short, arduous battle with brain cancer. And James was just a wonderful guy up there in Maine. We went to some wrestling shows together. He and his brother Jared and me went to some local wrestling shows together. Just a big supporter of me and just a great, wonderful, all-around great guy. So he will be sorely missed, and my condolences to his family as well as those of George and Bob. So our heartfelt prayers and condolences go out to their friends and fans and family. Today we do look at Survivor Series Showdown 91 from the WWF. It was shown on the USA Network on November the 24th, 1991, taped November the 11th, 1991 from the War Memorial Auditorium in Utica, New York. There were 5,000 in attendance. Vince McMahon and Bobby Heenan run down what we're going to see. They then welcome us to the showdown. McMahon talks about Randy Savage being bitten by the King Cobra. Earthquake with Jimmy Hart versus the Big Boss Man. Boss Man comes to the ring flying, and Earthquake attacks him immediately. Earthquake with a bear hug and then runs Boss Man into a corner. He slams Boss Man down. Boss Man comes back. He hits some shots and a big boot. Boss Man takes off after Hart. Boss Man goes back to attacking Earthquake. Earthquake with a corner whip and a splash. Earthquake gets caught up in the ropes, and Boss Man attacks Earthquake. IRS comes down to ringside. Earthquake attacks Boss Man. He dumps Boss Man on the apron when IRS attacks Boss Man. Earthquake with an elbow to Boss Man. Boss Man thrown out, and IRS goes back to the attack. Boss Man strikes first and then hits Earthquake with corner-mounted punches. Back and forth. Earthquake with a wrist lock. Boss Man goes to clothesline Earthquake, who dumps out Boss Man instead. Earthquake works on Boss Man's arm. Earthquake wraps the arm on the ropes. Boss Man fights back with a series of elbows. They trade blows. Boss Man hits an enziguri and gets a 2 count. IRS drags Boss Man to the outside. He gets back in and hits Earthquake with a clothesline. Jake Roberts and Typhoon come down and get in for the disqualification. The LOD comes down to even the odds. Flashback to Ric Flair confronting Hulk Hogan on the funeral parlor and getting attacked by The Undertaker. Undertaker rips Hogan's crucifix off. Bushwhacker Luke versus Blake Beverly with the Genius. Blake attacks Luke. He beats Luke down in the corner. Luke bites Blake in the butt, and Blake rolls out to regroup. Luke comes out and runs Blake and Genius into each other. The Genius distracts Luke so Blake can attack Luke. Luke comes back. Blake rolls out again. Blake makes referee Earl Hebner get Luke back. Luke with a side headlock. Luke gets out and goes after the Genius. He chases him back to the dressing room and comes back wearing Genius's mortarboard. The crowd loves it. He attacks Blake. Blake comes back with a corner whip. Blake picks Luke up, rams him into a turnbuckle, and slams Luke. He misses a diving headbutt when Luke moves, and Luke gets the pin. Mean Gene is on the podium. He calls out the big boss man in the LOD. He asks him about who will fight with him. Boss man says they fight for law, order, and justice. Animal calls out Jack Tunney to let Randy Savage be their partner. Hawk says their opponent should still spontaneously combust rather than face them. Flashback to Randy Savage getting bit by the King Cobra on Superstars. Mean Gene talks to IRS, the Natural Disasters, and Jake Roberts. Roberts says Randy Savage doesn't want to get in the ring with Roberts. He calls Savage a liar. IRS says that at Survivor Series it will be 4-on-3. Typhoon says they can take out the LOD. Earthquake says they will take out everybody at the Survivor Series. $1 Million Championship match. Virgil versus Ted DiBiase with Sensational Sherry. Virgil out to a great ovation. The bell rings and they circle each other. They drive to a corner and break. DiBiase with the early advantage. He hip tosses Virgil. He pushes Virgil around. Virgil comes back and gets a 2 count. DiBiase regroups. Virgil with a roll up for a 2 count. They exchange wrist locks. Virgil with a side headlock takeover. They trade counts. Virgil keeps the side headlock on. DiBiase gets to the ropes. DiBiase with the back elbow. Virgil is thrown outside and Sherry attacks him. DiBiase also out to attack Virgil. Virgil thrown back in. DiBiase continues the beatdown. DiBiase with a side suplex. He gets a headlock on. Virgil tries to fight back. DiBiase gets a 2 count. DiBiase with a scoop slam. He misses the fallaway elbow. Virgil comes back and punches DiBiase down. He low blows DiBiase. It's a side Russian leg sweep. Repo Man comes down. He grabs the $1 million belt and hits Virgil with it. DiBiase gets the pin to become the new champion. DiBiase puts Virgil down on the mic after the match. El Matador comes down and gets in DiBiase's face. He hits DiBiase and DiBiase bails to the outside. Mean Gene interviews Jim Duggan. He calls out Herb Brooks, the U.S. gold medal winning coach, in the audience and announces that Sergeant Slaughter as his partner for the Survivor Series. Slaughter gets a big ovation when he comes out. Slaughter says it's an honor to be on the team and be the flag bearer. He leads the crowd in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mean Gene then brings out Hulk Hogan. Hogan says that he has heard for a long time that Hulkamania is dead, but it still lives. He calls out Undertaker and Ric Flair. Hercules versus Roddy Piper. Piper is hugely over with the crowd when he comes out. It takes a while to get started. They are face to face. They circle each other. They lock up and drive to the corner. They break. They trade blows. Piper unloads on Hercules. Hercules with some back elbows. Test of strength. Hercules gets Piper down as a Roddy chant goes out. Piper powers out and gets Hercules down. They get back to the ropes. Piper with a poke to the eyes. They battle in the corner. Piper with a sunset flip, but can't get the pin. Back and forth. Piper with a bulldog to get the pin. Mean Gene interviews Ric Flair's team. They bring out Mr. Perfect as Flair's executive consultant. They put down Hulk Hogan. DiBiase talks about reclaiming the $1 Million Championship. Flair puts down Roddy Piper's team before they sign off. Final thoughts. A pretty good show that did its job to hype up the Survivor Series. You can follow me on Facebook, Threads, and Instagram at @TheJoeyHarris. If you like the show, please leave a review on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or your preferred podcast app. I would really appreciate it. We can also be found on Spotify and YouTube. Just search for The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show and don't forget to hit subscribe. Thank you for joining me. This is Joey saying so long from the heart of Virginia.
The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show is a production of Baby Kangaroo Media.